Let me start you off with your company. We've talked about this for a few years now. We've had you in studio before. What's the latest going on with the Heisman?
We're still growing. We're really seeing an opportunity to become one of the first national brands that promotes cannabis. As the culture is changing around cannabis, like I said, it's a great opportunity, and we're pushing on.
So what do you hope to accomplish? Like the end goal, you talk about that you keep on pushing on. What's the end goal for Ricky Williams in this endeavor?
I mean, really, it's about improving the quality of life of people. And for me, because of the stigma, I stayed away from cannabis for a large part of my life. And I've heard this story over and over again with retired athletes is when they retire, they start consuming cannabis and they realize, wow, I wish I would have found this when I was playing, because they realize the relief they get and they don't have to take as many pharmaceuticals and do even more damage to their bodies. So it's really about quality of life.
And if during your playing career, right, if it was accepted, if it wasn't frowned upon with the way that you're talking about, how do you think, and your story is well documented like you were talking about Ricky Williams, like what do you think would have been different for you?
Again, a quality of life.
Yeah.
I was doing something and it hurt my reputation. It hurt the amount of money I was able to make. And it really made the other things, the platform that I created for myself as a professional athlete, it really slowed down the work that I could do off the field. And anyone who's doing this, at least back then, really had to hide. And I think when you're hiding anything you do, it really is a waste of time and energy.
Yeah, it's crazy. You last played in the NFL with the Ravens in 2011. To see where we are now, which, yeah, it's a lot of time, but in the large scheme of things, it's really not where we are in 2023. It's crazy how quickly the world has really revolved here, Ricky. Evolved.
Yeah, it's amazing. I guess as you get old enough, things change. And when you're young, you don't really appreciate it. But like I said, as you get older, it becomes obvious.
Talking to Ricky Williams, I was watching that Netflix documentary on Johnny Manziel, who also won a Heisman last week. And it was impossible when I was watching it to not think, if he still has his Heisman, which I believe he should, man, Reggie Bush should get his Heisman Trophy back. Where do you stand on that issue, being a Heisman Trophy winner?
I think especially now with the NIL deal and as the facts come out about Reggie's situation, it's silly that people haven't said something and given him back the trophy. He earned it, and I don't think he did anything wrong. And now that everyone's getting paid, it seems silly.
And that's got to be like annoying for you, because you know what it takes to be a really great running back, and you see someone put in the work, and then just to take away that award and pretend as if he never won it. That's a frustrating part with what the NCAA does, is we all see things go on, and then after the fact, they try to tell us that those things never happened.
Well, it's tricky because we say it's an amateur game, and the word amateur comes from the root amor, which means you're supposed to be playing for the love of the game. And back then, that meant that you couldn't get paid for it. But college football, a huge business. So There's a lot of people getting paid for it. So, I think we're figuring it out, and we're acknowledging that the NCAA is a business. And I think that's going to help so things like this don't happen in the future.
I know last time we talked to you, Ricky Williams, you were at a rookie conference, and you were kind of giving advice to some of the youngsters. I know you were hanging with Bijan Robinson, a fellow Longhorn. When you talk to some of these players that are just entering the league, with your experience and seeing all the different versions of it, just what are some of the things that you advise athletes now?
Two things. One is take care of yourself, and the second one is aligned with the first one, speak up. I think one of the most difficult things about being a professional athlete, especially a professional football player, is dealing with injuries. And only we know what we got in the tank. And if we're at 65%, 85%, 100%, a piece of advice I got as a rookie is they're always going to expect or think that you're at 100%.
Yeah.
And so I just tell the athletes, it doesn't mean don't play. It means just speak up. Don't be the tough guy. You have to learn to take care of yourself, especially if you want to last a long time in this game.
And I know these guys have been in the league for a little bit longer, but you're seeing a lot of the running backs now speak up with the state of the position. Ricky Williams, like Saquon Barkley, Austin Eckler. You go through the list, Josh Jacobs. Just what do you kind of make of this dilemma that we're in now, where it seems like everyone's getting paid but the running backs?
Yeah, it's a dilemma, but it's like in any market, things go up and things go down. And back, especially early in my career, Most teams built their team around defense and having a strong running game. And I think as the game has evolved, the market on running backs has gone down, and it puts the onus on the running backs to get together and do something about it. And I think it's good for running backs. I watched the big podcast with Saquon before training camp, and as I watched it, I kind of had deja vu. I felt like that was me, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And knowing what I know now, as a running back, because we take so much of a pounding, we don't have long careers, which means that we need to try to get our money more on the front end and start thinking about what we want to do in the back end, because quality of life. And if you try to play running back for 10 years, it's going to be tough to maintain quality of life post-football.
So what would you do if you were like a Josh Jacobs right now, who has a franchise tag? That $10 million, if you sit out, you're never going to be able to earn it back. Would you just play eventually and show up when training camp's over and take that full $10 million, or do you kind of prove a bigger point here and miss a few games?
I'd take the money and play one season, because my point is, for a running back to look for longevity, I'm not sure, and I think the teams feel the same way. I think and that's why it's difficult.
Talking to Ricky Williams. So let me ask you about your alma mater, Sark. A lot of people are believing in him this year. You got Quinn Ewers at quarterback. You have Arch Manning waiting in the wings. Probably won't play until next year. Final year of Big 12 football for Texas. So what are your views on the Texas program right now?
What's funny, so going back a bunch of years to my freshman year at Texas, and it was our last year in the Southwest Conference before we entered the Big 12. And Texas had kind of been down and quiet for a while, but that last year we ended up winning the Southwest Conference, and then the next year we ended up winning the first inaugural Big 12 conference. And so I'm feeling a little deja vu, and I think that for the first time in the past several coaches, or at least coaches since Mac Brown left, there's been like a lot of hype and then a crash. And I feel like with Sark, there's hype slowly building, and he's building on success. So I think this is really a breakout year for Texas.
And I can't wait for that game up against Alabama, because if Quinn Ewers didn't get hurt last year, I thought your alma mater would have defeated Alabama in that ball game.
Yeah, definitely. I think the way they played last year gives them confidence to feel like they can go up to Tuscaloosa and get a victory.
On the way out with Ricky Williams. All right, I got to ask you about Bijan Robinson. Year one expectations, everyone's going to be talking about them. I had my fantasy football draft last night. Ricky, I drafted him 6th overall, and all my friends in the room were like, oh, that's early. I wasn't expecting that. With Bijan Robinson, what do you think he's capable of year one in the NFL?
Yeah, what he's capable of, it really, sky is the limit. He can do so many wonderful things. They talk about running backs in the passing game, but he not only can catch, but he can make big plays in the passing game. And the thing that I'm most excited about for Bijan this year is, we talked about running backs, and because of the shift in the game, there aren't a lot of offensive schemes that really spend a lot of time and energy scheming the run game. There are a few teams that do, and the Falcons are one. So I think if Bijan can stay healthy, he's going to put up big numbers this year.
What does someone like Bijan Robinson ask you? A guy, right, that kind of walked in your shoes as well when he was at Texas, had all the hype around him, the big expectations. I'm sure you guys have some sort of relationship, but what are those conversations like with you and Bijan Robinson?
No, it's really just support. He's been doing this for a long time. I mean, making plays, scoring touchdowns. And I think when he has a rough game or dealing with an injury, I feel like that's when I've been most helpful and useful. Just to hear someone you respect who's been through something similar, give you some words of encouragement. It seems like that's been the best I've been able to offer him, because, the stuff on the field, he's taking care of that himself pretty well.
Last thing I'll ask you, have you seen any of Deuce Vaughn so far with the Cowboys? This guy's 5'5", a rookie, and man, he could really make some defenders look silly.
Yeah, he's fun to watch. He spent a lot of time in Austin. His dad was on Coach Strong's coaching staff, so I got a chance to get to know him then. And so it's been fun to see an Austin connection doing great things in the state of Texas.
So how can people find out more information now about the company that I love just because of the name Heisman that you're doing great work with?
Yeah, Heisman.com. It's really easy. And it's not just about cannabis. It really is a lifestyle of being yourself and having an open mind. I mean, anyone who's followed my story, it's my brand, so it's about the things that I'm into.